Hello, everyone. Welcome to my story reading channel. The short story I'm sharing today is titled Far From Home. The title Far From Home is also the title I gave to my book in the video. The following story is about a young girl from the countryside who moves to the city to make a living. There are many twists and turns in her life in the city, and she worries about making ends meet for herself and her family back home. Before we begin the story, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel so you can hear more emotional stories about life. And now, let's dive into the story. Away from home, 8 p.m. The city seemed to slow down along with the flow of people and vehicles quietly drifting down the streets. A fine mist of rain enveloped the night lights. The wind roared as the door creaked open. Motorbikes sped by, slicing through the streams of water, making my heart stagger as if it were about to burst. Another stressful workday had ended. I was swirling in sadness and hunger. I felt completely lost, unsure of the way home. I stood staring at my bike, my legs heavy, unwilling to move. My arms hung lifelessly at my sides. That morning, before leaving for work, I had taken 2,500 dong from the altar. It would be another 4 days before payday. I thought to myself that, unless something unexpected happened, that amount should be enough to buy some vegetables for simple meals until then. I had carefully planned my spending for the next few days and thought it was manageable. But as soon as I got on my bike, I realized the back tire was completely flat. I was stuck. If I repaired the tire, I would have no money left. If I didn't, I wouldn't have a bike to get to work the next day. Dejected, I wheeled the bike slowly down the street. I passed by a coffee shop. A gentle melody floated out like a call from heaven. Stylish faces filled the cafe. I looked at them as if from some distant world. A naive thought crossed my mind. They must have had a full meal already, right? I kept walking, passing by a food stall. My instincts sharpened, alerting me. I slowly took a deep breath, trying to soak in the aromas wafting through the air. From afar, I saw a small, shabby tarp tent set up on the sidewalk with a few tires hanging on a tree. A man, around 40, stepped out, unbuttoned his shirt and scratched his belly, then tilted his chin at me and asked, "Flat tire?" It was already 9 p.m., and finding a repair shop at this hour was tough. Looking at his appearance, I felt hesitant. Thinking I didn't hear, he repeated, "Need a tire patch, kid?" I sighed in relief and wheeled my bike over. "I only have 2,500 dong left. Is that okay?" He reached out, yanked the bike in, and said, "All right, fine." I paid him up front, then pulled out a chair to sit and wait. The hunger boiling inside me made me think of my parents and little sibling back home, who had probably already gone to bed. I swallowed hard, imagining the steaming bowl of rice my mother used to cook. When the tire was fixed, my limbs felt like jelly. The pedals could only turn halfway, just enough to get the wheels rolling slowly. I kept pedaling and finally made it to the foot of the staircase at my apartment block. Gathering the last of my strength, I hauled the bike upstairs. As I stepped into the house, I instantly knew what I needed most. A hot cup of tea. My blood pressure was dropping. I felt like I had no strength left to do anything. I reached for a packet of instant noodles and ate them dry. After a long, stressful day of work, filled with hunger and fatigue, I knew that sleep would take everything away. At dawn, as my eyes began to sense the light and my ears picked up the sounds of life beginning to move, I jolted awake to prepare for work. Yesterday's exhaustion was no longer with me. I stepped into the new day with an empty mind. Work repeated itself, day after day. I had finished the early shift and had a few minutes to myself. I sat and watched people passing by on the street. Sometimes, my vision blurred because there were just too many people and vehicles. Unlike my hometown, where there was only one motorbike in the whole village. Suddenly, from afar, a song echoed, stirring a deep homesickness in me. It had been a long time since I'd been able to visit home. As the voice faded into the distance and my heart filled with sorrow, an old woman suddenly appeared. She leaned against the doorframe, pointed at me, and yelled, "Do you remember yesterday? You and your gang beat me up, fighting over the house sale? I won't sign that paper! Never!" She let out a loud, eerie laugh and walked away. It turned out she was the local madwoman. I was terrified and rushed inside. Since childhood, I had always been afraid of drunk people and those who had lost their minds. Today was the full moon of the first lunar month, and I got to leave work early. For a long time now, my mornings had been spent with my head down, pedaling to work, and when I returned, the sun had already set. Being able to see sunlight today made me feel like I had gained a little more energy to live. I leisurely pedaled my bike slowly, taking in the street view. Suddenly, from behind came a loud honk. Two young men, a few years older than me, sped past on a motorbike. One looked over at me and shouted, "Keep to the side! Riding a bike like you own the road!" I startled and swerved inward. The guy on the back turned his head, glared, and cursed. Typical countryside girl. I lowered my head in shame. Did they not even see me as a girl, speaking to me so harshly? The joy of getting off work early that afternoon instantly faded. I pedaled home quickly, wanting to disappear, to avoid facing anyone. I tried to keep myself busy with chores so that the vague sadness wouldn't swallow me whole. As the room lights turned on and the ticking of the clock grew louder, my eyes began to blur over the half-written letter in front of me. I drifted into sleep. Through a haze, I sensed the heavy footsteps of Uncle Thung from the room across the hall. A loud crash shattered the quiet. My heartbeat quickened as I jumped up to look. Uncle Thung staggered like a willow tree swaying in the wind. "You damn brat!" he shouted. "I told you not to fall for that damn Chinese-speaking guy. You better love someone from the city with a nice bike who'll give me a piece of land, then I'll marry you off." A few minutes later, Qian and her little sibling, Hua, came over and knocked on my door. I rushed to open it. She said, "Your uncle's completely drunk tonight, like he's possessed." I thought that once she and her younger sibling came over, things would calm down. But just as the three of us were dozing off, the pounding on the door started again. "You and your brat hiding again? You little country girl dare to shelter them? I'll kill you all!" he roared. I lay trembling, certain something terrible was about to happen. In the end, Qian had to take her sibling and go back, so he wouldn't come over and destroy things again. The whole night, I lay restless. In the morning, just as I managed to carry my bike down to the bottom of the stairs, I saw Uncle Thung, face flushed red, intentionally ramming into the back of Ha's boyfriend's motorbike. He shouted, "Coming to pick up my daughter with a lousy bike like that? Get a new one! Around here, people ride good bikes." Then he grabbed my arm and said, "You're dressed nicely today." I flushed with embarrassment, unable to say a word. I lowered my head and pedaled quickly to work. Every few days, I'd get another fright because of Uncle Thung. I decided I needed to find another place to live. I couldn't take it here anymore. Eventually, I found a small room for rent in another building nearby. It was run down and had been unoccupied for a long time. Cobwebs hung in every corner. There was no window. The landlady promised to patch the roof with tar paper and lend me an old bed frame. That evening after work, I moved into my new place. Seeing that I was in urgent need, the landlady immediately raised the rent. Since I had already brought my things, I had no choice but to agree. The next morning, the road to work felt even longer. As soon as the director saw my face, she started giving me one task after another. I was constantly overwhelmed and scolded. After months of working there, I felt like I was becoming duller and duller. The first night back in my new room, I showered, lay down, and started reflecting on everything that had happened during the day. From the alleyway came loud cheering and shouting from a group of young men daring each other to come bang on my door. On instinct, I jumped up and stood to block it. The door felt like it was about to break off its hinges. A slurred voice yelled, "Open up! I won't do anything. I just want to take a piss." Then came a stream of curses. "You damned country brat!" I was terrified and couldn't sleep the entire night. This time, moving again wasn't an option. I had no money left. I'd have to wait until the end of the month. On my way back from work, afraid I might run into that drunken crowd again, I hesitated and wandered slowly through the streets with my bike. I stopped by a supermarket just to look around. I had no intention of buying anything. After all, I didn't have the money. I was surprised when a smiling salesgirl, bright as a flower, handed me a greeting card for International Women's Day. So today is March 8th, and tomorrow is my birthday. Suddenly, I felt a little happy, a tiny spark of joy. Why did I always feel like no one around here even noticed I existed? Leaving the supermarket, I didn't know where to go next. I suddenly remembered the school gate I passed by every day on my way to work. There was a woman who fixed bikes there. I decided to stop by and have the inner tube on my rear tire replaced, as it was completely worn out. Watching her work, I secretly wished she'd take her time so I'd have an excuse to stay there longer. I thought about my own room, so full of mosquitoes, so unbearably hot. On sleepless nights, I dragged my bed frame around the room, hoping to catch a breeze. But even when a cool wind came, I couldn't sleep because I was scared of ghosts. One day, a colleague from work came by to visit. Seeing how miserable my place was, she invited me to stay with her and her husband in their rented room. I was feeling low, so I agreed without hesitation. Their room was small, with a large wooden platform in one corner. At night, her husband slept on the inside. She and her little boy lay in the middle, and I took the outer edge. The next morning, I felt embarrassed and said, "This really must be bothering you too." She smiled and replied, "Don't worry. My husband's easygoing. Besides, you're going through a tough time. There's no need to feel bad." As soon as I stepped out into the alley, I overheard some gossiping women say, "That girl's so stupid, bringing another woman into her house, like dangling meat in front of a cat." I was mortified. I knew I had to find another place. Her husband was truly kind. He never once behaved inappropriately toward me. In fact, he even helped me find a cheap, clean room nearby. He said the people in that building were all decent folks. I wouldn't have to worry. But since moving to Hanoi, I hadn't stayed anywhere as clean as this. Each day at work, I found myself wishing the hours would pass quickly so I could return to my new home. One afternoon, while I was relaxing in my room with a sigh of relief, the landlord called me upstairs to take a phone call. I panicked, fearing something had happened back home. As soon as I picked up the receiver, I heard my older sister's voice, choked with tears. "I'm going to Hanoi tomorrow to sell at the market. Things are so hard at home. We have no money. Last night we argued and he threw a pot lid right at my face." I fumbled for words. "But your child is still so young. Maybe you should wait until they're a bit older before coming." "I've made up my mind," she replied. "I'm coming tomorrow." Early the next morning, I rode my bike to the bus station to meet her. My heart sank when I saw how much weight she had lost. She dragged 2 large sacks full of goods. She handed me the bag of corn and told me to take it home. She'd go sell the bag of snails before they spoiled. That first day at the market was tough. She wasn't used to the roads, and by the time she got home, her legs were worn out. After subtracting the cost of transportation, she hardly made a profit. She said she'd go to Long Bien Market the next day to get better stock. Her face looked tense, full of calculations and determination. I could see how resolute she was. It made me feel all the more useless. At 3 a.m., she quietly slipped out of bed, not wanting to wake me. After she left, I lay there in restless guilt for letting her go alone. At dawn, she returned, weighed down by heavy goods. I jumped up to cook her some noodles so she could eat and get ready for the day's work. Snacks: tangerines, starfruit, guava. The profits were meager, but it was still better than back in the countryside. One evening, I noticed my sister tossing and turning, unable to sleep. She said she needed to go back home. She missed her child and missed home too much. Selfishly, I didn't want her to leave. If she went, I'd be so lonely. But I didn't dare ask her to stay. Since moving to Hanoi, I've had very few friends. I don't go out, and I don't feel like talking to anyone. I rarely even smile. Over time, I've become increasingly anxious in crowds. One day, a coworker had a birthday party at a dance club, a place I never imagined myself setting foot in. Shyly, I tagged along with the group. A lively song melted the tension from my face. Under the flickering lights, my feet floated as if they weren't even touching the floor. That night, back in my room, my ears were ringing, my mind dizzy. Joy was still dancing in my chest when I was startled by a phone call from my mother. She said my younger brother would be coming to Hanoi to look for work. I thought to myself, I can barely make it on my own. How will he survive here too? But I knew things were tight back home, so I didn't object. Almost a month passed, and my brother still hadn't found a job. I was growing anxious. Every day after work, I sometimes get angry. And at times, I feel like I'm being unreasonable. When I calm down, I ask for her forgiveness. I don't know if she's afraid of me or upset with me, but every day she quietly cleans the house and prepares meals while waiting for me to come home from work. Then my sister found a job. Since she didn't have any skills, the pay was very low. But I was really happy about it. Low wages are fine, I told her. It's better than staying at home with no work. Every morning, even though I had to go to work on an empty stomach, I always tried to make sure she had enough to eat. The two of us didn't have enough to eat for many meals, and soon enough, my sister insisted on going back home. I'd rather go back to the village and raise chickens and pigs than work like this, she said. So, she couldn't handle the pressure of city life. Once again, I had to live alone. Fate had decided it for me. My sister went back, and I felt so sad. But I couldn't stop her. In the afternoon, I rushed to bike back and take her to the bus station so she wouldn't miss her ride. When I walked into the house, I couldn't find her anywhere. She must have left early in the morning. I looked around and found a note she had left behind. After reading it, I realized I couldn't blame anyone. Stay here, sister. I'm going back to the village. I've left 23,000 for food on the altar. I buried my face in the letter and cried. How would I live with only 23,000? The story ends here. Please leave your comments about the story and don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to the channel to motivate me to share more stories about the lives and destinies of people. Goodbye, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Goodbye. Let me know if you need anything else.